Today, we will look at addressing modes and memory map. Okay. So far we have studied the following. We started with basic operation, which are of register type, which is a add, subtract, and add. Later on, we looked at the store and load instruction. Then we studied logical, bit by bit logical operations like AND, OR, XOR, etc. Both with register as well as for when we are using I, that is constant field within an instruction. Then we looked at the logical shift instruction left and right, which is in register mode as well as in with I mode, which is immediate field mode. Whenever there is I, then essentially it's immediate type. It means that we have to do operation constant times, and this constant is given in the instruction itself. Okay. And then we looked at how can we generate 32-bit constant. We have looked at the branching instruction when two registers have equal value, right? And then jump to some location, right? And we now in the last class we have seen that all this branching instruction are basically branch address is relative to the PC or program counter. Okay, then we looked at the plain jump instruction, which is unconditional jump. Okay, and then we have looked at how do we do function calls. Okay, how do we implement function calls in assembly with the help of JALR instruction. Okay, jump and link instruction. And we looked at stack, how we push the values into stack when we go to a function call. And then we have looked at the following formats. Okay, that's all we have discussed so far. All right. And I'm sure you would have learned all this. Please go through the book and book by Patterson and Hennessy, RISC-V edition, which is available in the market, Amazon, or you can get it online. I mean, it's also, I guess, it's the e-version is available in Kindle and other places. It better way to get it. Okay, then today we'll look at addressing modes. Actually, we have studied this already. This one we have also studied, but we'll revise it in just few minutes, and then we'll spend time on how RISC creates memory map or address space for set of instructions. Right, for a program we have address space, and in what different parts of the address space look like. I mean, we have already done studied this in case of Intel x86. I mean, as part of your lab, but we'll do it for RISC architecture. Now, note that what we are studying in this course is also useful for your other course, that is OS. Well, there's a lot of overlaps between OS and this course and system programming course, and also compiler course. You will find it very easy if you understand the concepts that we're studying now. Okay, the addressing modes, we know what are the addressing modes. We have register only addressing modes, like we have when we say add A, B, C. Okay, then all three operands are registers, right? Okay, addressing modes define the operands. How do we address the operand? Okay, so here all three are registers, so this is a register only. Immediate type also we have seen. Their immediate field is part of the instruction. Then base addressing we have also seen. I mean, when we take a base register and take offset from that, then it's basically like in case of, I mean, we have used it several times. In case of, say, load and store, we also have base register concept. And also when we jump, for example, we have base register. PC relative addressing we have seen in case of branch as well as in other instructions. Okay, so let's look at very quickly about register only addressing mode where all operands are registered. Okay, so we say add S0, T2, T3. Okay, where S0, T2, T3 are registered. Okay, or we can say sub T6, S1, S0. Okay, so all these are registers, all operands of the instruction. So this is opcode. This says what to do and what to do on what, right? So those operands, we have like these, there are these two on which say what is to be done, and finally where the value will go to, right? Like we'll say that in this case, take the contents of T2, add to that contents of T3 and store them as 0. Okay, so all three are here, are in registers, right? Okay, and then we have also studied immediate field, like add I, S4, T5 and -73. So the field here is of immediate type. Okay, this is nothing but a constant that we define inside the instruction. Okay, so it says that take the content of T5, add to this -73, and the result is to be stored into register S4. Okay, similarly, when we say ORI, it means the logical OR we are doing between the contents of T7 and contains the value that's given here, FF, and the result will be stored in T3. We have looked at all these instructions, right? And then we have base addressing. Like we take base address and then immediate field, right? So it's like this: load word, LW is load word, where loading means that we are bringing something from memory to register. To this register, this is a destination register. Destination is register S4, and then immediate field is this 72 is defined there, which is contained. Look at contents of register 0. Add to that those contents the value 72. It means 0 plus 72. So address is memory address is 72. Bring from at memory address 72. Whatever the contents, bring it to register S4. If it's S4, then bring it to this one. It's simple. Okay. Another example is that store word. Store is means that taking the value from register. So this is stored from T2. So contents of T2 is to be taken to a memory location. What is the memory location? This is where contents of T1. So T1 register, I will look at it. Add to that -25. And whatever be the address, this is at this address, this suppose this address, go to memory and store the word which is there in T2. Okay, so T2, contents of T2, so this is a pointer as a summation, and then contents of T2 must be moved to that place. All right, so this is a pointer and the contents will be transferred to that. Simple. And then last that we studied was a PC relative addressing. Okay, say when we do branch, okay, say for example, branch any in this example, it means that if contents of S2 is not equal to contents of, contents of S8 is not equal to contents of S9, then branch to label L1, where L1 is defined somewhere in the assembly language program. Now this label L1 is not something that will go to machine instruction. Okay. Now what we do is, what assembler will do is that it will, there's a concept of symbol table. So where it will know where L1 is. So this label, this address corresponds to label L1. So wherever it finds L1, assembler wherever it finds L1 replaces it by some number which is displacement from that instruction. Okay, so basically what we are doing is that we are here calculating the displacement from here with respect to PC. So PC is at this point, 0xEB0, this address, and we have to come to this level L1. So we'll find out difference between the two. So the difference here will be 2908 minus 2908. So this should be added to value of PC. So PC is equal to EB0. Okay, I'm sorry. It's like this. I'm sorry. So in order to find out displacement, look at the current value of PC. This is the EB0. Okay, and from that we need to subtract 354, or we will do just opposite of that. I mean, this is a destination, so take this plus this, and you will find the okay. So you will get the answer, right? So it's a displacement, and displacement in when we do this, then displacement is in indicated direction. So essentially, okay. So this is plus minus. So basically, suppose this source. If we finding displacement between this point to this point, right, then you take this as a destination address, this is the source address, and the destination minus source you do minus. And here in this case, we will do destination minus destination is 354, and from this you subtract EB0, so you get answer would be this one, displacement. It means displacement is in different direction, right? Negative direction. All right. So this is what we have studied, right? So essentially we have 4 addressing modes: register only, immediate, base addressing, and PC relative. Because the jump here, or the destination address or the jump address, is relative to PC program counter, right? All right, so these are the 4 modes that we have studied. Any question? Divyani, do you have any question?
No, sir. It's clear.
It's clear. All right. Now, as an exercise, what you can do is that please look at instruction set for x86 and see how many addressing modes they have. Okay. So many assembly languages have more than 7, 8 addressing modes. This is very simple. Just 4 addressing modes, we are able to do most of the stuff. Okay, little bit about when we run a program, high-level program in, say, for example, in C, then there are various steps involved in execution of that. This instruction is ultimately converted into runtime code. Okay, so there is a play of in between assembler, linker, and loader. And I'm sure you understand the concept of these 3. Role of compiler is to compile C program and create assembly. Okay, so assembly language, like for RISC-V, we have seen what are the instructions like add I, subtract, and all that, right? And from that we create object code. Okay, so basically machine instructions, right? Machine language instructions. Okay. Now you may be using, the program may be using various libraries. Okay. And these are libraries developed for a language. For example, when you are running C program, there might be standard input output library or some other library. Okay. And all this object file of all those, okay, is brought in and combined with the object program. The program that assembler gives, output of that is combined with object files or library files. And these are all in machine instructions. Okay. Now we are talking here about static linking. you will study in your compiler course something called dynamic linking, which we are not talking right now. Okay, and so this, suppose this is your program, which is of in machine language, say RISC-V, and these are all libraries that is added to that. These are all libraries. Okay, so this, the whole program, you know, even now when you combine these two, note that it's still using your address space, right? Starting from 0000 to whatever. Okay, but say FFF or something. Okay, when we linker combines them, it puts into right address space. Okay, now this whole thing is now to be loaded, because you know your machine on which this is going to run, the memory of that machine might be containing something. Okay, some other program may be running. So it means that your 0000 in your address space has to be mapped to some memory space that's available. Okay, so hence this role of loader is to load your program and make appropriate changes, etc., if required, and or basically load the program. It starts from 000 to certain location in appropriate way. Okay, so if we get time, we will look at linker and loader, but I am not sure whether you will study this in your compiler course. Possibly, because it's part of compiler, could also be part of your OS course, could be systems programming. Generally, it's part of sys programming course. Since you don't have it, possibly in one class we'll cover both linker and loader sometime towards the end when we finish our syllabus. Any question in this one? Any question you have on this part? Okay, you what as an exercise you can look at compiler options in GCC, and with various commands, you can look at what is assembler file and what is object file, and look at the file formats. Okay, you can also see what files are getting linked to that. Okay, all right. Okay, let's move ahead. Okay, now interesting part. What is stored in a memory? So note that your program has address space, right? Starting from 0000 to some, so which is essentially what your program can address is depending on your size of what? Your word size, right? So here we are taking 2 raised, it's a 32 as word size. So 2 raised power 32 locations you can address. Okay, that's all you can address. If you have 32-bit address, then 2 raised power 32 locations you can address, which will start from 000 to FFF whatever. Okay, this will be 8 times F. Then this will be 8 times 0. Okay. Here basically each represent 0x or hexadecimal number. So essentially converts in 32. This also converts into 32 digits, zeros and ones, bits. Okay, so we can represent here 2 raised power 32 locations. Fine. Now the data that we are using in a program is of 2 types. One is static or global data. Now static here is something we will see. I mean, basically something that is whose life is during the execution of the whole program. Okay, and is visible in all routines. Okay. Okay, it's like global variable or static variable that you define in C. Okay, I would request you to go through the book Cunningham Ritchie is best book. Otherwise, you can look at other books. I usually follow a book called is called All in Programming or something like that. Okay, and then find out what static variables are. What is the role of static variable in general? Okay. All right. So we'll look at that. And the dynamic variables are the variables which you define in the program, like your local variables. Okay. Or it could also be dynamic, not only variable, dynamic data type of malloc type, right? You in C you have concept of malloc. You reserve a memory location, some memory locations for certain usage, right? Which can change during program execution. All right, we'll look at this. So this is the memory map for RISC-V. It starts with all zeros, goes up to all F. Okay, now it's shown C because the last word. Last word is starting at C and will go last byte of the last word will finish at F. Okay, now in the beginning you have exceptional handlers, which is part of OS. Okay, this is the one here. And then you have also OS programs here. All right. Then you have 3 pointers. Stack pointer. This is global pointer and program counter. So exception handlers are program counter anyway. All right. So now architecture is divides the address space into 4 segments. First is the text segment. Okay, this is your program will come. Okay, this is a text corresponding to the code. This is a machine code, or something that we have seen after linking. All that thing will come here. Okay, your global variables will come in this place. Global data, or is called static data. Sometimes we call it static. Okay, will come here, and then here you have, it's called dynamic data. It means that changes during program execution. Okay, it will be part of stack as well as part of heap. Now note that heap and stack grows in opposite direction. All right, any question?
So your constants variable will go in global data.
Which one?
Constant variables.
Constant variables. So basically, static variable. You mean?
Yeah. I mean, constants.
There's global variable, right? Global variables will come here in global data. Okay, dynamic data will contain basically local variables that we are defining, as well as malloc, etc. Heap, malloc. We'll take up some example now, right?
Yes.
First, let's discuss what static or global data is. I mean, both words are used. Some authors use called global, some use it static. Okay, so it's here, something shown within the red. Okay, a circle. Okay, here. Okay, so this is global data or static data. Note the word static. Static does not mean it cannot be variable. Okay, when we say static, in fact, we are using word variable here. It means that a variable is something whose value can change. Okay, when we define global variable or static variable in C, it can be accessed from the main or any function, and from anywhere the value can change. Okay, it's not constant, right? So the word static is used here to represent that its lifetime is until the main program executes, and its visibility is from everywhere. Okay, so it exists all the time and accessible from all the functions. So those data items which you call static will come here, and constant will also be placed here. Okay, all right. So let's. Okay, good. How do you access this? There is a pointer called global pointer. Okay, look at 32 registers. Out of those 32 registers, we have said register X. There is a register called GP. Sorry, which represents global pointer, or it's nothing but register X3. When we name these 32 registers, you will find something called GP. Now this GP does not change. Its location is middle of this area. Okay, so it points to middle of the segment, and then we can access any element that we are storing by offset. Okay, say for example, you can say load word to register X5, something that's given by register pointed by register GP with 0 offset. It means that we are getting middlemost element or middlemost word. Okay, all right. So GP. So now why they have done it? They have done it for efficiency reasons. I will have to. Okay. Let's look at what this will contain. We said the global variable, right, or static variable. So this is the C function, the main. Okay, and here we are defining a variable before main. So it means that this visibility of this is to all, not only main but some whatever functions we have. Okay, so this will be a global variable or static variable, and it will, if we expand this area, then the middle of that is pointer, the global pointer, and then 4 will be placed right there. Okay, if this is the first element that we are storing into a static area, data area. All right, is it okay? Any doubt?
Sir, I had a doubt.
Yeah, please.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. Sir, here when we are talking about the memory, that primarily we are referring to the bulk storage memory such as hard disk, right?
No, we have not yet mapped it to hard disk or main memory. Okay, we are
So
talking
what
only
is
about.
address space here?
We are talking all about the address space. Okay, and this could be located in main memory anywhere, or part of this could be in main memory. This is a mapping between uh, main memory and secondary memory. When we'll read memory hierarchy, all these concepts will become clear. Right now, you'll have to think only in terms of logical placing of all that. Okay, we are yet not. Last step is your linking, right? Sorry, here loading. Where in memory this is loaded? What is the memory that we are in general talking about? We have seen that we have cache, and below cache we have main memory, and then we have in between also we have studied something. I mean, there is some flash or something. Let's forget about it right now. Then there is a disk. Okay, so we as you move up, this becomes faster and faster and so on, right? Cache cannot contain the whole address space. It can contain only part of the program that you are executing, right? So let's not right now worry about where is it displaced. You think mentally that you have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, that's 0, 32 times 0 to f 32 times, that you have access to that. Okay, this is a logical space, and you have access to that in the system. How system manages that, we will study later. Got it? Right now, you will have to just think that logically, yes, this is how it will happen. So this whole thing that we are seeing here, this thing, not necessarily everything has to be part of the memory all the time. Ideally, it should be part of the main memory. Okay. Part of this can also be in cache, and in fact, part of this is in register, because register values, what variables you are using in program, many of them are in registers. Okay, so right now we are looking this as a logical space, address space, and at the end, and you assume right now it's available in main memory. Right now you assume that. Okay, and later on we'll see how it is going to go. If it's not part of main memory, then how we can bring it to main memory, because obviously when we need it, it has to be there in main memory. Okay, so right now we assume that all this is available in main memory. All right.
And sir, you said that we have a 000 32 bits up till FFFF. So how do you say that? Because that might depend on the memory size we have available with us.
So again, what I'm trying to say is that let's not worry about how actually it is mapped into the main memory. Okay, main memory has to be larger than this size in general. Okay, if it is not, then part of this can always be brought in, and part could be in secondary memory, and from there it can be brought in when needed. So that paging algorithm and how secondary memory whole address space is mapped and used, right, or implemented, we'll study later. Okay, at this moment, for understanding, you assume that your main memory is larger than the address space, and all that we are looking at right now is there in main memory. All right, let's and later on, remember to ask this question when we study main, what do you call that, memory mapping or memory hierarchy in general. All right.
Okay, sir.
All right. So just assume that the whole stack, the whole memory map is available right now to individual process. Okay, all right. So how does function load global data? That we have seen that now we can store this global data just above, something called 1000. So what is 1000 is nothing but where global data starts, this address, 1 and remaining zeros. And note that global pointer is in the middle of this. Okay, this space. Now generally this space is fixed. Okay, a fixed size. So this static data size is in general fixed. And then this global pointer is at 1000000800. This is the middle of that. Okay, so this global pointer points to middle, and we start saving this global data starting from 0000. So we'll have to find out the displacement between global pointer to this first data where we have stored. So we'll look at this, right? Just a minute. Okay. So that we have seen, the global pointer is in the middle of global data area, which is at this memory location. Okay, and then we can get the offset from that. So for example, when we are bringing the first data item, which is here in the beginning, then we'll say, you can see, okay, the sync was gone between my. Okay, so there is a global pointer which is in the middle of static data. Okay, and all the variables we are storing here, which is starting with address 1000, basically beginning of the static area. Okay, something is shown as thick, something here. Okay, so now the first variable we want to read from there for first data item. Okay, so we'll say that load word T0 and then global pointer which points to middle and offset is 800. So if you to this one you add the displacement, and in this case we are reducing it because addresses are going this way. Then we will come to the address of the first data item, and then we'll have to get the second data item T1. Then you just do displacement which is 4 bytes less than the previous one, right? So it will be this one. All right. So this is how we access data item, global data items. Okay. All right. Okay. So here you understand it, right? So global data items we access is with reference to global pointer, and we find out the displacement from global pointer, which is the middle of static area, and then we get those data items. Okay. All right. Okay, let's move ahead. Now let's look at this example. Okay, and when you're doing your assignment, you would have seen something that goes to assembler or simulator. The file will have this format, right? You define data dot data, and in that you define various data items. So here we are looking first at let's look first at C program, which is on this side. So we are defining global variables or static variable int, f, g, and y, and then the main program. Okay, and we are using in that global variable f and g, and as well y. Okay, and then we are calling a function called sum, which is here. All right, and when we implement this, the data, the global data that will be f, g, and y. Okay, so this will come in a static area. Okay, it means that here in this area it will come f, g, and y. Okay, and then we have dot text. It means that we are here in code area, this one. Okay, and then it will have all this code. Okay, so all this code will come to this area. Something is here. All right, so now let's look at what we will do. When we'll study compiler, you will find out that for assembler, the first phase of assembler is essentially to see where the labels are or various global symbols are, and then corresponding to that, find out what is the address. So for example, f, g, and y are global variables. They are at these respective addresses. Okay, all right. And then main is another, main and sum are symbol. Actually, main here, if you look at it, is not, it's just a label, right? In assembly. Similarly, sum is a label. It is actually mapping to the function in C. But assembler looks at just as a label. Okay. You could, in fact, in assembly, you can call it by anything. It doesn't matter. Instead of main, you can call it and also or something. It doesn't really matter. We are using this word here essentially to show that the main function is starting from here. So this kind of table is created, and then okay. Well, I mean some fonts have gone wrong. Okay. So basically, this is the text area. Okay, and this is global variable area. So just a minute, let me switch back to, okay. let me go to all right. Okay, you can see the screen now.
Yes, sir.
The one on my laptop now, right? So this shows correct fonts. Okay, you can read this, right? Executable file header.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So this is a text segment. Okay, this is a data segment. This is data segment when we say it's a static data in our case. So static data will contain F, G, and Y. Okay, so we have F, G, and Y here. Okay, and then text segment will have this whole program in machine language, and then file headers are here. Okay, all right. So this is what the program is represented as, and we'll see how this is loaded into the memory. Okay, now corresponding to address space. So this is reserved area, of course, and then the whole program will come here. And this is the text area. Okay, and then global pointer is here, and then 3 variables are coming in static area. So this is a static area starting from 100, 1000, etc. Right, from here is starting. So F, G, and Y will be in static area. All right, and then we can access global pointer is fixed here, and finding out displacement to F, we can read F, then displacement to G, we can read G, and displacement to Y, we can read Y, right? So for example, global pointer with displacement, whatever is difference 800 will give the value of F, and respectively G and Y. All right, let's move to next one. Okay, now some data, for example, in this case, there are some data items which are not known at the beginning of the program, which are local variables. Okay, here in this case, what is a local variable? Actually, there is nothing. All F, G, Y, all are. So we are not defining any local variable here. But in case you suppose you define, say, local variable, say X. No, not X. Say, for example, D and K or I or whatever, then that will come in stack. Okay, so stack. So data in a stack is or heap is not at the known at startup. So it's not a global variable, right? Global variables and static are known at the startup. Data items are dynamically allocated and deallocated throughout the execution of program. Okay, it means that when you define a local variable, and we have seen in one of the class that visibility of local variable is within that function, right? When the function execution is over, then the space can be used to keep some other variables, right? So, and this area, which is stack, is the largest segment of memory. Okay. So stack goes downwards that we have seen, and then okay, and each stack frame is accessed in last in first out manner. Now, question is, what is stack frame? You will read this in detail in your OS course, but see, each stack frame corresponding to a function or that instant of the function, that run of the function, right? So, for example, okay, so for example, main, when so your program, C program will have main, so main will have a stack frame, and then when it goes to say another function, that function will have also a frame, and so on, right? So wherever control goes, so from main you jump to a process, say a function F1, then there will be there will be stack frame corresponding to F. From F1 you go to F2, there will be stack frame corresponding to F2. And the last one, for example, in our case, F2 will be in use because it has been last in, because control program is there and the execution is happening there. When the F2 execution is over, this frame will be deleted. Okay, so it's something like this. So let's look at how stack will really look like when we are executing here. This is the main program. Okay, so there will be in the stack area. So main will have also some local variables, etc. And main, so there will be stack frame corresponding to main. Okay, so when is jump, for example, when we are jumping to my function X, there will be JAL instruction, okay, in assembly, and it will be saving some registers, right? So all these register saving will happen here in the corresponding to main stack frame corresponding to main. Okay, now when control comes to my function, right? So this is a function. Then there will be stack frame corresponding to this one. And similarly, now when we execute this my function, then it's calling itself, right? So now there will be another corresponding, when control goes to second instance of this my function, correspondingly we will have a stack frame here. Again, let's assume that it calls itself, then there will be one more stack frame here. Now, had this my function called some other function, say my function 1, then this stack frame would have been my function 1. Okay, all right, you got it? Any question? Okay, you got it, or shall I explain it again? Let me just see if all right, I can go back to my iPad and show it to you there. Just give me a minute. Okay. All right. Okay, you can see the screen now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is the main program. So let's see. Let's visualize this as follows. This is the main program. From there, I'm going to a function f1. Okay. Now function because there is a call to function f1, and from f1 I'm going to function f2, another function. From f2 I will come back to f1. From f1 I will come back to main program. So this is a normally sequence. Okay. So as soon as f1 is encountered here, okay, even before that the stack will be formed. This stack frame will be formed, and whenever there is a when there's a process call or function call f1 is there, then there will be stack created for this function f1. This will be f1 here. Okay, and when within f1 there is a call to f2, then f2 will be F2 frame will be made. And before jumping to function, all the corresponding values or register values are saved here, right? We have studied saved register and non-saved register like temp register, etc. Right? And correspondingly, those values will be saved. Array will also be saved, and so on, right? And each frame, stack frame, will also have local variables, right? So the one which we have seen earlier, okay. And then apart from that, okay, so we see here two pointers, right? One is SP, which is stack pointer. Now stack pointer always points to the top of the stack of the last frame, okay, that has been pushed into. Okay, so now as more on program is executing and more variables will come into this one, local variables. So size of this frame may change, right? Now accessing any element inside with respect to stack pointer is difficult because stack pointer itself is changing. So that's the reason there is another pointer that's used called frame pointer, which shows the beginning of the frame, because beginning of the frame will not change. Okay, so items in stack, various variables, etc., we can access through frame pointer. Okay, so with reference to frame pointer. Okay, got the point? Any question? Any question? Are you able to understand this concept? Please say yes or no. If no, then I can repeat and try to explain it differently. Anyone? Devyani?
Sir, actually, if we are using S0 register as FP, but we've used that in calculation also. So I'm just wondering how they're able to maintain the contents of that.
So because you know where you're pushing things, right? So you mean to say that how to access inside something, right? Using this pointer?
Sir, I meant that here it's written X, aka FP S0. So the S0 register out of the 32 is reserved for the frame pointer.
Yes.
So, but then sometimes so when we were writing code for our assignment, I have used S0 for calculations also.
Yeah, that's okay. You can use it.
So, but then how is it able? So then aren't we essentially overwriting the frame pointer?
Yeah, so you will have to make sure that you don't use it if frame pointer is to be used in your program. Okay, so for example, all these registers, nobody stops you from using. That's the reason these have been named for you to use appropriately, right?
Yes, sir.
Had you used this, F8, see, in F8 you can store anything. For example, you are doing a simple addition of two numbers, A plus B. You can add here A and then add to this and say register X9 you have B, and then you say add C A B. It will work. Now, what this points to, if you are using this as a pointer, okay, if you using this contains an address, then you will get garbage because it means nothing. Okay, so it's a good practice to avoid using these registers that are reserved for a specific purpose. So it's like in X0 you can write anything, but actually its value will remain 0. right?
Yes, sir. Understood.
Okay, so that flexibility is there, but when you are using it in particular, make sure that your calculations are temporary, use temporary registers. That's my understanding.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Try doing it. I mean, why not run this in simulator and see if you're getting garbage or you're getting actual meaningful
So
results.
it's actually working, and that too with function calls. So I was wondering how it was.
That too with function calls. You'll have to see the context. You'll have to see the context.
Okay, sir.
I will also try to run and get back to you. Okay. And then there is something called heap. Now remember, this is not data structure heap that you studied. Okay. Basically, if you have linked list, it means that the size of the data structure changes during the execution of the program. Okay, then all those things are kept in heap. Okay, for example, malloc, etc. Okay. So basically, heap holds dynamically allocated memory. Say a very specific example is malloc. Okay. So look at this code here, which is C code, which says that there is a pointer X, or X is a pointer to memory location memory. With malloc, we reserve 1000 locations, and it points to first of that, first location of 1000 memory locations. Similarly,
Yes, sir.
Y points to
I think the
memory.
slide is freezed at frame pointer slide.
Pardon?
The slide is freezed at the previous slide, I guess.
Oh, okay. Again, it's the same problem. All right. So let me just give me one more minute. Okay. I think there's a problem with my iPad. Let me just screen share. Okay, you can see it now, right? You can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just go to, okay. Okay, all right. Do you see heap here? Okay, it will contain the malloc or some dynamic data. So look at this example here, which says X is a pointer to malloc 1000, means that you allocate 1000 memory locations in heap, and X is a pointer to the first of that location. Similarly, Y is pointer to 2000 locations, first of 2000 locations. Okay, so let's see how this executes. Okay, so first is that when you execute this instruction, first instruction, then 1000 bytes are allocated here. Okay, and pointer the X, then X now is a variable that is in stack. Okay, the value of X is beginning position of this 1000 byte area. Okay, similarly, Y, when you execute the second statement, then 2000 bytes are allocated, and Y here is created in stack, and Y represents beginning of 2000 bytes. Okay, all right, and now next instruction is free Y. Then what will happen? This is be freed up, fine, and Y will show nothing. In fact, yeah, that's okay. And then you execute the third statement, this one, a pointer, Z is a pointer to this area. So you will allocate 3000 bytes and create a variable here, Z, which will point to beginning of this area, or this 3000 bytes. And now from that you can read, I mean, if you want to get the first byte or second byte, then you have pointer, and with the use of pointer, you can read whatever you want to read. Okay, Let's take another example. Let's finish in another 2 minutes. Okay, this is the program. So you can see n is a global variable, and okay, and there is one more global variable corresponding to this one, because this will go also as an input. Okay, so basically, and the local functions are here: I, M, sum, and array A. A is pointer to some malloc. Okay, so all this will come here is a local variables, and its lifetime is function invocation, and location is stack. The global variable we see n and string, and it's visibility is the whole program here. And if there are multiple functions, then it could be across multiple functions. And lifetime is program execution, and location is dot data. And similarly for dynamic, which is nothing but malloc star A or pointer A. And so wherever the pointer points, there's a visibility, and malloc appears the lifetime, and it will be part of heap. Okay, so this is a simple concept. So all right, to summarize, what we have studied today is 4 addressing modes and how memory in this really looks like in terms of logical address space. Okay, all right, so that's all for today. Please get back to me if you don't understand anything in the class, right? You can send me a message, WhatsApp, email, or whatever, or even make a phone call if you have any difficulty in understanding. All right, so please let me know, when we should have mid-sem exam. You can decide and let me know, sometimes next week. Or you decide the date. I will leave it to you. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.